besties!
I smell like bee.
Today I wanted to do the video I was going to do in conjunction with my spooky book recommendations video. In that video I do just feel like I talk about the same books on repeat, so I thought I'd make this video just to kind of like spice it up a little bit, just to talk about different reads that I'm looking forward to read and maybe even adding some on your TBR as well. This video is going out a little bit later than I wanted. I had to take a week off because A, I was behind with uni work and editing because I was so sick. So I had no time to film, no time to edit, no time to do anything, so I do apologise that I missed last week's upload. This may seem like a really late video to put out, but I wanted to make it anyway because I'm still really excited about all these spooky reads. There are a lot of books on this list that I'm very excited to talk about, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into all of the books that are still on my spooky TBR.
Hey, listen.
So the first book on my spooky TBR still came out in September of this year, and it is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. So White Smoke is apparently inspired by The Haunting of Hill House and Get Out, as our main character Marigold is running from ghosts. In the Goodreads description it does say, the phantoms of her old life keep haunting her, but a move with her newly blended family from their small Californian beach town to the Midwestern city of Cedarville might be the fresh start that she needs. And then I think that this new house, as traditional in all horror pieces of media, this house just is unlike anything else I've ever been to, and I'm guessing that the ghosts follow them around. I'm guessing this will also be quite inspired by Mexican Gothic, which I actually read in October this year. I actually read that pretty recently, which will be in my September/October wrap up very soon. So I'm expecting some maybe body horror, maybe some Monster House, Haunting of Hill House vibes. I kind of do like when houses come to life, but it has to be a very specific way of doing so, which I found with Mexican Gothic. So I'm actually really excited for this. I have enjoyed all of Tiffany D. Jackson's books that I have read so far, and I can't wait for this one as equally so, because it's going to be spooky and right up my alley. Next we have another house-related Gothic like horror novel. So this is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. The difference between this and White Smoke and Mexican Gothic and loads of other like house-related horrors that I've read is that this is actually a memoir about a same-sex relationship that turns abusive. In the description it does say that the author tackles a dark and difficult subject with wit, intentiveness and an inquiring spirit as she uses a series of narrative tropes, including classic horror themes, to create an entirely unique piece of work which is destined to become an instant classic. I am really excited for this. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and the fact that it's actually a memoir about abuse and a same-sex relationship that's abusive, which we don't really hear about in media all that often. Really excited for this. I haven't picked it up as of late, but I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that I get it for Christmas. It's on my Christmas list. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this because of the themes, and I think it's going to be very interesting with the horror themes standing in for something else, often the way for horror. And yeah, seems like a really good read. I heard nothing but good things about it. Very excited for it if I ever get to read it. Next is one that's actually still on my October TBR because we are still in October. I haven't missed out on spooky season just yet, okay? And that is Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy, and the illustrator is Tom Percival, I believe. I will be making a reading vlog of this because I want to read it all in one sitting because A, I just want to devour it, but I feel really behind on my Spoopathon TBR, which I am participating in October. My TBR will be up here somewhere if you want to go and view it. This is still on my TBR because obviously I haven't read it yet, but I am going to soon, really soon actually. This is about Stephanie, who has a, I think it's father or uncle of some kind, a relative, who is an author of horror. And when he dies, she kind of inherits the world, and her inheritance, I think, involves his profits or something to do with that. She inherits his writing, basically. And in this inheritance, Stephanie realises that although her uncle slash relative slash whoever it is, I think it's grandfather actually, I don't actually know, some male relatives, although that she realises that this relative is an author, the stories that he writes aren't fiction at all, they're actually real. And I'm really, really excited to get to this. It's my partner's favourite book, and I just feel like it's going to be great. I really do. Next on my spooky TBR list is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. Now I really enjoyed The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I read it recently and I found that it's just a little bit, you know, too convenient for me. But on first reading I really, really enjoyed it. This, like I think every other Shay Earnshaw book, is set in the woods surrounding a mythical town called Fir Haven. We have our main character called Nora, who is rumoured to be a witch. She and the Walker women who live in the woods have a shared special connection, and it's one that leads Nora to a missing boy called Oliver. He should be dead, but he's actually alive, left in the woods with no memory of anything that he's been missing, like no concept of time. And I think this will be a little bit of a mystery behind the boy and Nora figuring out what happened to him and kind of like returning him home, maybe having some sort of connection. Now that I realise this is a mystery, I don't actually know if I'll vibe with it as much as I do, but I love Shea Earnsha's writing and her world and her vibe, so maybe I'll give it a go anyway. But yeah, anyway, really excited to delve into more Shea Earnshaw, whether it is Winterwood or her next release. But this has been on my TBR for quite a long time, so maybe I should get to this. It's a TBR veteran of sorts, so maybe I should prioritise this one. Next is a book by Leigh Bardugo, the queen of creepiness herself, and that is Ninth House. This is another one that has been on my TBR for quite a long time, so I probably should get to it soon, but also it's a big boy. I just don't have the patience, darling. So I think this is all about Alex, who goes to a university or college of sorts, and underneath all of the like prestigious nature of the college, university, something, there is a secret society. In the little description it says, but their occult activities are revealed to be more sinister and more extraordinary than any paranoid imagination might conceive. Underground society has maybe a reputation of being quite, I don't know, grotesque, making initiations really like maybe just gross. I don't know. I actually am looking forward to this. A lot of people say that the beginning is quite slow, but to give it a chance. So it's one that is really like intimidating to me on my TBR, so maybe I should get to it, but also no. I feel like you either love Ninth House or you absolutely hate it, and I'm really interested to see which on the scale I fall. I have a suspicion that it's gonna be hate, but you never know, do you? You never fucking know. Next is another one that has been on my TBR for a very long time. A TBR vet for fucking sure. This has been on my TBR for 3 years. This one is #MurderTrending by Gretchen McNeil, and I've also heard a lot of good things about this one as well. The bio for this on Goodreads says, welcome to the near future where good and honest citizens can enjoy watching the executions of society's most infamous convicted felons, streaming live on the Postman app for the suburbanized prison island Alcatraz 2.0. I have no idea, were those words? So I think this is based in a world where like an audience can kind of like cancel people online, and then the one that he's the most cancelled ends up being murdered on a live stream. I think this is going to be an excellent portrayal of this kind of genre, this kind of like dystopian Black Mirror-esque type of media form. And I also think it's going to be kind of like a social commentary on how social media and us in general as a society have this kind of mob mentality. When someone does the slightest thing that isn't right, they can't be redeemed and they're a bad person, and it's almost like they should be killed. So this book may take that to the extreme, and I'm fucking excited for it to be called out because I genuinely hate it. This one has been on my TBR for 3 years, like I said. And maybe it's time to be spooked out by #MurderTrending. Maybe it's just time. Next, you guessed it, is another TBR veteran. I originally saw this on Emma Books' channel a long fucking time ago. I added this again 3 years ago, actually before #MurderTrending. And that is The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. I have no idea this was by Alexandra Bracken. Holy shit. This is about Prosper, who I believe is a child or like maybe a young adult teenager sort of thing. And he discovers that a great demon lives inside of him. The demon wishes to destroy Redding's family, but he won't fucking let it. Obviously the demon's strength grows and grows every single day, and I believe this is going to be a little bit of a tense tale about demons and maybe some supernatural like magical realism twist, which I really enjoy in fiction, so I'm hoping that I really enjoy this. However, I've been putting it off for 3 years. So who even knows where we're going to get to it. Next is a book that was released actually quite recently as a little bit of a change. This one actually has sparked a little bit of controversy in the booktube community, and it is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. A Deadly Education is, I believe, set at a magical school for kids with like supernatural powers, where failure means certain death until our main character Elle breaks this curse, I guess. There are some rules in this school, including don't walk the halls alone and beware of the monsters who lurk everywhere. Sounds very ominous. The main character, of course, has supernatural abilities that can do absolutely anything, and they can do no wrong because they're the chosen one. I kind of love the chosen one trope, so maybe this will be a good read for me personally. Something maybe a bit different to read in the spooky season, something maybe a little bit more diverse, although that has obviously had some discourse online, which is a little bit spicy. I'm going to be careful going into this. But yeah, I'm excited to see something different, something a little bit maybe like Mortal Instruments-esque. I've been missing that kind of like void in my life for a while with something new that's like the Mortal Instruments. Maybe this could act as that. But I'm trying not to get my expectations too high because obviously the discourse about the education online. I believe the second book is also coming out or already out, so that could be something to consider. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be a magical school full of mischief and danger and demons and magic, and just seems like my cup of tea, like all in one cup. Thank you very much. Next we have a BookTinner favourite, and that is The Diviners by Libba Bray. I haven't wanted to read this ever since I joined BookTube, and I just haven't ever got around to it because of how hyped it is and because it has such an expectation that I'm going to love it, but I actually might not. If you've lived under a rock for God knows how long, since like 2012, The Diviners is basically set in 1920s New York, following our main protagonist Evie, as she has just been expelled from her old, boring hometown and shipped to New York City. She has to live with her uncle, who is obsessed with this weird cult, and she worries that her uncle will discover her darkest secret, a supernatural power that has only brought her trouble so far. I believe this is like a kind of like found family story about supernatural beings, and again, I'm kind of missing that found family supernatural Mortal Instruments kind of vibe. I believe that there's demons in this. A lot of people do love it for the same reasons that they do love Shadowhunters, and I'm really excited to step into something a little bit different, but also kind of a classic here on BookTube that everyone loves, and that is very intimidating because it is so large and in charge.
The trees. Royale is large and in charge.
But maybe I could love it too, which is what I keep holding on to. The next book is very loved by a lot of people actually in its TV show form, but I'm not sure how many of them have actually read the book, and that is You by Caroline Kepnes. I've heard the sequel for this is absolutely awful, and I'm not going to delve into that, but I might read this and I might watch the series afterwards if I feel like it's really good. So this is about aspiring writer Joe, and he kind of falls in love with, I believe, a bookstore owner or a librarian, someone who sells books and he writes them. He begins stalking this woman from the bookshop, kind of makes this like meet cute chance romance meeting, kind of, he wants to make that kind of thing happen. He moves from stalker to boyfriend as he becomes more involved in this woman, I think her name's Beck, in Beck's life. And Joe kind of like transforms himself to be Beck's perfect man, kind of like killing people in his path and hiding their bodies and becoming a murderer. A lot of people love the series of this, and I'm hoping that the book has the same sort of vibe. I really would like to read this soon, actually, before the end of the year, because a lot of people hype it up. I think it's finally time, because it was released so long ago, that I finally actually read it and delve into everyone's hype, because a lot of these books on this list are very hyped, which is probably why they're still on my TBR, because let's be honest, I don't do well with popular opinions. Next is a book written by a YouTuber, and I don't think it's like one of those books that is a story of her life or anything. It's The Truth About Keeping Secrets by Savannah Brown. Now, I used to really like Savannah Brown's content, and actually in July of 2019, I think I put this on my TBR because I liked her content. This is all about Sydney and her father, who are the only kind of like psychiatrists for miles around in their small Ohio town. Her father then is unexpectedly dead, and Sydney kind of like is grieving this, and she kind of tries to navigate life with this perplexing idea that her dad was a therapist and now he has died unexpectedly, and thinking that she's trying to connect the dots to suicide. Homecoming Queen and Golden Girl June Copeland is at his funeral, and the main character Sydney is kind of wondering why she is there, and as the two of them grow closer, Sydney kind of starts to reveal that June is hiding something about the murder. Again, I'm not someone who is particularly interested in mysteries or thrillers or like whodunits really. I just find them quite tropey, and I end up just not caring about the mystery, and so I'm like, why am I reading this? I don't really care. I'm not sure what it is about them. Maybe it's because I haven't found the right one, and this one could be the right one, because this does sound a little bit interesting. You know, a therapist dying mysteriously, we've got this mysterious main character and also her June friend. Maybe it could become something LGBTQ+, but I'm really excited to read this anyway and kind of delve into it and see if it is the mystery for me. Maybe it could be. My next book on my spooky TBR isn't fictional. It's actually quite spookily real, and that is The Five, The Untold Lives of the Woman Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenhold. So this is basically what it says on the tin, really. It's about Jack the Ripper and the women that he killed, because often Jack the Ripper is kind of like immortalized in history and kind of like not idolized, but in a sense, yes, maybe. His crimes have kind of been romanticized within history, and historians have kind of like admired him a little bit because he never got caught, and to this day we don't know who Jack the Ripper is or was. But in doing this, you kind of like leave out a massive part of history in the fact that he was a murderer, or rather they were a murderer because they think that it was a midwife, but I don't actually know. They leave out this massive chunk of the story that like Jack the Ripper was a heinous murderer, no matter if they got caught or not, and a lot of lives and a lot of families were disrupted because of the things that happened. No one really talks about the women that he killed. I mean, some of them, we know some of their backgrounds, but a lot of that is misinformation, because a lot of the time historians say that the women that Jack the Ripper killed were prostitutes, when actually not a lot of them were. Why does that matter? They were trying to get money, and they were, you know, probably desperate. And even if they weren't desperate for money, this is still a valid way of creating an income. So I really am interested in, you know, learning more about this, because I fell a victim to kind of like idolizing, romanticizing Jack the Ripper's crimes in history, and I just want to learn more about the women and what they went through, what their families went through, and who they were in their lives before they were murdered. So, you know, they're not just the murders, they are women. Well, they were women, they were alive, and they got murdered and that was cut short. So we should definitely be talking about it a little bit more. Next we have a book that hasn't actually been released yet, which is kind of mad. It is going to be out on the 19th of July 2022. Publishers, if you want to give me an arc, I am right here. Your girl is literally waiting for her eyes to be feasted on this fucking beautiful story. It is Youngblood by Sasha Lauren. The first line of the Goodreads bio actually sold me. It says, for fans of Vampire Diaries and Dark Academia, two queer teen bloodsuckers and elite vampire-only boarding school must go up against all of the vampiredom when they didn't discover a frightening conspiracy on campus. It's a fictional school, a fictional supernatural school about queer teen vampires. Give it to me! I don't want to know the nuances of this plot or anything. I want to go into it completely blind and just be blown away and have no expectations and just love it. I really would like to do that. I would absolutely love to get an arc of this. Who I need to email? Who I need to fucking bribe? I would love to read this upon release, even if I have to pre-order it and, you know, get a copy myself. That's absolutely fine. I would love to read this, and I'm gonna be so excited for this next year. It's gonna be queer, bloodthirsty, it's gonna be amazing, and I can't wait to read it. Why am I doing this? I don't know. I can't wait to read it. It's gonna be fantastic. Next we have a spooky classic, which I still haven't read, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So again, this is a hefty classic, which I don't actually own, I don't believe. But I was thinking the other day about, you know, spooky books on my TBR, and I realised I haven't read Dracula, and I also haven't read Frankenstein. I have kind of read Dracula retellings. I kind of have seen Dracula, like, imaginings on screen, but I haven't actually seen much of Frankenstein apart from the original movie. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna read the fucking book. So obviously, if you don't know what Frankenstein's about, I think everyone does, but just to give you a little bit of a reminder, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is about a scientist whose creation becomes a monster. That's kind of all you need to know when going into Frankenstein. The Frankenstein is made in like a laboratory. He's like an experiment and it goes wrong, and he's kind of like a representation for a lot of social criticism. And I think because of my recent, you know, research and recent love for horror, I really like to read this classic because I think it's a poignant text in horror that represents a lot of stuff in our society that I would love to get my teeth into. Two more on my spooky TBR, so two left. This next one I think is either a new release or isn't even out yet, and this is The Morbids by Ella Ramsey. This came out actually last year, I believe, in September. I've just checked. It's about our main character Caitlin, who is convinced that she's going to die. 2 years ago, she was a blossoming 20-something with a career, relationship, until a car accident left her with a deep and unshakable understanding that she's going to die. So I'm guessing that this accident kind of like propels this thought of the fact that she's very mortal and that she will die one day. So Caitlin deals with these kind of premonitions and anxieties, fears, worries, phobias, whatever you want to call it, by throwing herself into work and alcohol. She joins a support group for people who also fear death called the Morbids. And in joining the Morbids, Caitlin kind of must rebuild her life again and kind of like get over the fear of death and just kind of start living in the face of death, because everyone's gonna die. It's inevitable. You can't really get away from it. So you might as well live in the present. Right, Caitlin? I love the concept for this book. I feel like I'm going to get very much so Pet Sematary vibes, because a lot of the characters in Pet Sematary by Stephen King are very much so afraid of death and will do anything to avoid it. But as someone who used to fear death quite a lot, I'm kind of still does. You know, I was thinking the other day, like, I'm going to die. This is going to be all pointless. Sorry for the existential crisis at, like, what? I'm posting this at 8 AM? You're welcome. But as someone who has thought quite a lot in the same ways that Caitlin has about death and about lives and answer questions, I relate on a different level, and I feel like this is going to be one of my favourite books, maybe next year or this year when I read it. It is a 5-star prediction because I feel like I'm going to really love it, and it's only downhill from here because it will disappoint me like everything else in life. The last book on my spooky TBR that I still have yet to read is The Witchhaven by Sasha Peyton Smith. This actually came out this year. I think it's the one that is hang on, I'm getting confused. This is the book that has been the most recently released on this list that is actually out. There you go, I said the words. I did the thing, I said the words. So this was released on the 31st of August, 2021. We are in 1911 New York City with 17-year-old Frances, who spends her days as a seamstress mourning the mysterious death of her brother. Oh, that's so sad. Everything changes when she's attacked and a man ends up dead at her feet. Her scissors in his neck, and she can't explain how they got there. Before she can be condemned as a murderer, 2 cape-wearing nurses arrive to inform her she is deathly ill and in order to report to Haven Sanitarium. But the main character finds that Haven's glittering walls aren't a sanitarium at all. It's a school for witches. I need this in my life right now. This obviously is going to be spooky. It might give the same vibes as some of the rest of the books on this that have school themes, but I'm so ready for other fictional schools that aren't written by TERFs. You know what I mean? It's going to be witchy, it's going to be vibey, maybe queer. I'm very excited. And I feel like it's going to be very gruesome, but also at the heart of it, speak about women empowerment and female liberation, and I'm very excited for that because that's all the things I love in fiction and anything that I consume. So yes, very excited for the Witchhaven, and I want to get my little grubby mitts on it so fucking bad. So there you have it. Those are all of the spooky books that I still left on my TBR. I hope that you got some recommendations and some inspirations for either really quickly this spooky season or next spooky season or any fucking season, because spooky season is a fucking lifestyle choice, not a season, okay? Let me know if you've read any of these or if any of these are on your TBR. Which ones are you most excited for? And if I've missed any that you personally think that I'd be interested in, because absolutely let me know in the comments. That's it from me today, besties. I hope that you enjoyed. Give this video a massive thumbs up and a subscribe to my channel if you would like to. Little bit of a reminder, I don't think I've actually said it on this channel, but I do stream on Twitch. Well, I am going to be streaming on Twitch once I graduate. Maybe like 3-4 times a week, some games. If you enjoy my content or if you enjoy me as a person, then go ahead and switch over to my Twitch channel. I haven't said that on here just yet, and I have on my main channel, so I thought I'd just remind you here. Just as be as transparent as possible, you can go and give me a follow over there, but I will not be streaming until May/June of 2022. So next summer we'll be back in session, and I will not have streamed for like a year and a half. So do be patient with me because I might be a little bit rusty, but I'm really excited to get back into it, and we're doing a whole new rebrand. It's gonna be very exciting. Trying to get everyone over there to hang out and just to be a nice little community. So go ahead and join over there if you would like to. If you like Twitch streams, or even if you just want to hang out, it's fine. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video in particular. Hope to see you in my next one. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy any books you pick up, and I hope you have a massive grand old time, whatever time, day, noon, afternoon it is for you. But yeah, see you later. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Spooky season.